Welcome to Going the Distance Live, episode number 13. We are 13 weeks into this bad boy. I'm going to guess that lucky number 13 is going to be the best one so far. I'll have to let you guys tell me that in the comments section. As always, I forgot my book. Whoa, hold on. That pretty much defines my day. As always, I'm running not behind, but I'm almost always behind. But as always, Going the Distance podcast is brought to you by Going the Distance. My book available on Amazon.com for Kindle and in hard copy, paperback, I guess you would say, would be the proper word. Get yours today. I put up for sale last week. After the podcast, some signed copies. There's still one available I left on the website. If anybody is interested in that, it can be personalized. But I have one that is signed that is waiting. You can get it at BrandonHudgens.com. I'll actually throw up the link to that really quick here. If anybody's interested, the link is going to be in the descriptions of stuff. If anybody wants to see it, there is one signed copy left that you can get for the same price that it is on Amazon. So my signature is not worth anything. It's what I'm saying. Anyways, update everybody on some things. If you haven't seen, I will be in New York City racing at the oldest track meet in the world, the Millrose Games, which were started in 1914, I believe. So it's the oldest track meet in the world. It was held in Madison Square Garden up until 2011. And they unfortunately moved away from there and is now held at the Armory, which is on the upper west side of Manhattan. So phenomenal facility. Super excited about it. I get to race all my friends and do what I love again. And I could not be more excited. Honestly, I could not be more excited to. I love racing in New York City. It's my probably one of my favorite cities to race in. I love visiting the city. Could not live there. That place is maddening, being around that many people. But I love visiting there. It's quite honestly, excuse me. The bubble's getting to me tonight. It's quite honestly an amazing city to visit, and I learn something new about it every single time I visit. But if people haven't seen, I'm in the Invitational Mile. I have not yet been invited to the Big Boy Wanamaker Mile, which is the oldest mile in race in the world. So I haven't quite made it into that yet, but I'm still in a race that is full of already sub 4 minute milers. So it is going to be quite the show. There's also a high school kid in it who is the only other kid in it, only other person in it to have not broken 4, I believe. So I'm looking here at the start list now. Just to run down, so you got Eric Avila, who's a mid 330s 1500 meter runner. Corey Belmore, who is Beer Mile World Record Hall of Fame, who just recently ran 357 in the mile. Mikey Brannigan, 357 miler, gold medal at the Special Olympics. Pat Casey, low 350 miler. Mac Fleet, NCAA champion at 1500 meters, sub 4 minute miler. Will Gohegan, sub 4 minute miler. Brody Hasties, who's the hot stud kid right now that's looking to be the next kid to join the club of high school sub 4 minute milers. Then there's myself, and a host of other sub 4 minute milers. I'm not going to go through the rest of them, but I'm in great company. It's going to be a great chance to race really hard. Frazier, what's up, dude? Why aren't you racing, man? Where are you at, huh? We hadn't hung out in random towns around America. We going to Flint this summer? Anyways, it's going to be super exciting. I'm just going to get in there and like I did 2 weeks ago and race like I'm in shape, and we're going to see what happens. So it's really an honor to be able to get into that meet. And I thank everybody that made it happen, especially Matt Sonnenfeld, who acts as my default agent since I don't have one. So it just reminds you that, I'm still made some headways into the sport and get a spot on the starting line. So it's super exciting. And I also just found out today too, I will actually be racing in Montreal, Canada. For you Canucks out there, I will be in Montreal on February 10th. That just happened today. This is how track and field works. I didn't know what the next meet was going to be, and I got a message on the Twitter today and from a meet director in Canada, and I'm going to Montreal now in a week and a half. So it's been a crazy day trying to get stuff planned. But anyways, they're hosting a mile up there as part of the Canadian indoor circuit, and I will be racing with 5 or 6. It's a really small track, but I'll be racing with 5 or 6 other guys in an attempt to make some money and have a good time and put on a show for the people in Canada up there. So if you are in the province of Montreal, Quebec, I guess I'll throw details up about the race next week. I don't have all the details yet. But as soon as that information is given to me, I will make it available for everybody else. So this is how track and field works. Sometimes you don't know where your next race is going to be, and you can literally get an email or a Twitter message, and you all of a sudden have a new plan. So we had been looking for a race. We didn't know what my travel budget was going to be like, or what my racing capabilities were going to be, and we were just kind of trying to play that by ear. And social media finally came through for me. The meet director from the Canadian Grand Prix circuit reached out to me and on Twitter, and then apologized in his email for being so savage. And I said, well, sir, for you apologizing for being savage, which savage is my favorite word, I'm just going to go ahead and agree to come to your meet. So anyways, that's how track and field works. Sometimes you just, if you're lucky, your schedule in advance. If not, well, you just kind of got to roll with the flow and know that something's gonna open up, and you just got to keep training hard and trying to figure out what's next, and know that something will come eventually. That was hard for me to understand my first few years of racing. I definitely did not have the same ends and connections that I have now. I had not run the same times, obviously, that I had now, and I didn't understand that, and it was a giant pain in the rear end, not knowing and not being okay with that. And I still have those moments. In fact, to be honest, last week was one of those moments. I before the podcast last week, pretty much as a lot of you may know, some of you don't know, I'd struggled from major anxiety and panic problems, and due to the financial situation of being a unemployed professional track athlete that struggles from a major vasculitis disorder, and having a medical bill of near $160,000 from 2017, and looking at what the landscape of the next year was going to be like, we just really I didn't know if it was still worth it. And I kind of had a breakdown before the podcast last week. I honestly almost canceled the podcast, but I came on here and did it anyway, because that's just what we have to do. We have to pick ourselves up. And as I had talked about in the podcast, we have fear of things, and younger Brandon would have probably found an excuse to cancel the podcast last week, but I had a message that I needed to get out and talk y'all through it, and realize that was just temporary. And here we are a week later, and things happen. And if you just keep putting yourself in the position to take advantage of situations when they become available. But it's not always easy. And that's kind of what I wanted to share with y'all a little bit this week before I talk about some other stuff that I got going on is like this sport, while it looks like all fun and dandy, and it's like some colorful pictures of me running around a track or in these beautiful places, or, oh, you get to go to New York City, or, oh, you're going to Montreal, or whatever the reality is like, without I have a sponsorship with Skechers, but it doesn't pay all the bills at all. And I haven't figured out a way to pay for my travel like I have in years past. So when without other sponsorship deals and stuff. So, traveling to a lot of these meets, sometimes the meet help cover, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they cover plane flights. Sometimes they'll just cover a hotel. Sometimes the really great ones give you a hotel. They give you a plane flight. They even give you per diem. But other times you're left completely on your own. And the bills for those rack up very quickly. And, it takes a lot of money to travel around the country and even around the world. And so sitting in my living room floor last weekend, not knowing what the situation was going to be for the rest of the indoor season, what the entire track season might be looking like, with where my health had been and everything. It's like, is this still worth it for me? Is it still at 31 years old? Your car's broke, like your car's failed inspection right now and you hadn't been able to afford to get it fixed. So is this still worth playing this game? And I was reminded the next day, and I was reminded while talking with everybody, I'm on a mission to do something, and I'm just got to keep figuring out ways and trusting myself that I'm going to figure out ways to make it happen. And we have, and you take your licks, and God, it sucked. Like it was actually really tough to do the podcast last week. And I honestly can't believe I got through it looking back on it, but, we did. And running's the same way. Life's the same way. Dealing with my vasculitis is the same way. It's just like, you just kind of get knocked on the chin really hard sometimes. And I don't want people to think that, like, just because I post some pretty shit on Instagram, or they see me traveling around the world, that this is just some easy sport to do, or that everything's all dandy for all of us, because it's very difficult for most of us. Our sport's very fragmented. There's 65% roughly of track and field athletes live below the poverty line. Most of them don't have the financial means to do it full time. So they have to have other jobs like I do, like coaching athletes. If anybody's looking for a personal coach, I do online coaching. Or if you're in my area, I'll actually meet you. But that information's on my website if anybody is looking for that. But I do stuff like that and do different things. And it all just kind of, it's a puzzle piece. At times I've worked full-time jobs. So you just kind of got to figure out a way to make it work it. And, last week, the last 2 weeks, really, I was talking about the fear of those, of the insecurities stopping you from doing something. And I was literally, when I initially started talking about it 2 weeks ago, I wasn't planning on going through that again. And I just want everybody to know that, like, I still go through these things, and it's not even like, I've written that book about a lot of these things, and I still go through a lot of these things still too. And it's not just like you reach this plateau and it's all done, and you can't just, it's like going to be smooth sailing from there, because, I thought after the year I had in 2016 that everything was going to be a lot smoother, but it has turned out that it's not. And that's just not how most of us live. If you do get to be lucky, obviously take advantage of those situations, because some of us do get put in those situations where, you don't have to worry about some of those things. And that is amazing. But that's also why I share and keep coming on here every week and sharing some of the stuff that I've been through, and some of my friends and other people have been through, and some advice and whatever I can give, because, like, I know when I stand on the starting line this weekend in New York City, like, all the work that I've put in over the last 6 or 8 weeks and all the struggling last year, like, all of that will be worth those 3-4 minutes. And I'm on the track, hopefully low 4, I'm going to shoot for sub 4, but we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to get out there and put our nose in it anyway. And it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be fun. And, I feel like I'm finally now getting the chance to really reach an audience, and I can't stop now. And I wanted to a week ago, and it was tough. So it's, we just keep plugging away, and that's what's so exciting about this. It's a roller coaster. I used to talk about the roller coaster a lot, and I haven't as much in recent years, but the roller coaster of life, there's a lot of ups and downs, and you just kind of got to learn to hang on for the ride. And here we are a week later, after nearly having a panic attack a week ago over whether or not I even wanted to still compete. Here we are a week later, and I'm going to Canada, racing a week and a half, and going to run the oldest track meet in the United States, or actually in the world. So just keep working and put yourself in the situations to make things happen. And actually because of that, I do have to kind of, with where I'm at, and I have not packed for New York City, and I'm beginning the trek tomorrow. I have not done any laundry. I have not packed anything. So I'm probably gonna have to cut. It probably won't be a whole hour tonight. I don't want to say apologize for that, but we're gonna try to make it short and sweet tonight, because there's some other stuff I do want to go over, because I was just kind of talk everybody like through kind of what racing looks like at an elite level. So like basically I'll fly out early Friday morning. I'm staying down near the airport tomorrow night with my friends. Fly out early Friday morning, get to New York City, get over to the meet hotel sometime about 11 o'clock, 11:30 in the morning. Probably take a nap, then go over to the Armory for a pre-meet run and strides and stuff, and then come back, go to dinner, and then go to bed. That's what traveling when you're, it looks like it's a lot of fun, but I see a lot of inside of hotel rooms, and the track normally. That's about all I see, unless for some reason I get to spend an extra day after the meet. So there's not a lot of sightseeing or anything that goes on. Obviously, although being in New York is obviously a sight. It's my favorite place in the world. I love New York City because, and I hate it all at the same time. There's so many people, and it's the best place in the world to people watch. I used to think Myrtle Beach was. Dirty Myrtle has some amazing people to people watch, but New York City, of course, takes the cake for weirdness. You just never know what you're going to see at any given moment. So the race is at 2:47 on Saturday. So, I'll wake up kind of early, go for a little shakeout jog, get some breakfast. I'm going to attempt to take a nap. Hopefully I won't be so nervous this time I won't be able to take a nap. Then head over to the track a little after lunchtime, after grabbing some food, chug another pot of coffee, and warm up and get ready to race. And then after the race, anytime you race at the Armory, the thing is to kind of go over to Coogan's, which is this really famous bar not too far from there, bar/restaurant. And it's where it's got a lot of track and field history in it as well. In fact, recently it was almost shut down because of the rent going up. But actually some politicians in New York and some people stepped up and signed some petitions and actually helped save Coogan's, which is absolutely incredible. So we'll be there after the race, and then I hop on a plane on Sunday and come right back. So that's really what traveling as an elite athlete is like. It's, unless it's late into the summer, it's kind of a business trip. At the end of the racing season, you got, when you're not as worried about getting times, and you're there to have a little bit more fun. You do a little bit more sightseeing and stuff, but yeah, it's strictly a business trip this time. So I'll be, in and out. And then early next week, Anthony Familetti, if some of y'all might have seen on Facebook and Twitter, I did a little bit of ranting about a certain website, using people's images to promote products that aren't media. Some people have been arguing back and forth about whether or not it is media or not media, and some of the goods and things that they're selling and using our images for. Kind of started a little bit of a firestorm with some people. Anthony Familetti, who was a two-time Olympian in the steeplechase, an App State alum, as well as a Tennessee Volunteers alumni. He made the 2008 and 2012 Olympics. He and I will be sitting down for a podcast early next week sometime with the one and only Nick Simmons. We're going to phone him in because the three of us all seem to kind of be on the same page about some of this stuff that's going on and some of the directions of the sport, some problems that I've seen with it. And I don't necessarily have the answers to fix them yet, but I think there's some conversations that need to be had, because quite frankly, I'm tired of 65% of us being broke and treated like dirt. And not getting our fair share of negotiating power. Nick fought for a lot of these same things, and Familetti lived through them. Familetti has some amazing stories about literally eating ramen noodles 7 days a week to pay for an altitude trip because he needed to before he went to the Olympics. And, that's what he had to do. He literally had to eat ramen like twice a day, with to be able to afford to do a sport. And he was an Olympian at the time. So when things like that happen, it makes me frustrated, and people aren't having the right conversations. People are talking about this stuff, but they just like to talk about it and not do anything. So Fam and I are trying to start the right conversations and start things heading in the right direction. So look for that sometime early next week. We're trying to figure out when the busy Nick Simmons is available. He's agreed to do it. We just got to work out a time. So a lot of stuff happening. Like I said, just a week ago, none of this was really on the docket, and it's amazing what a week can really do. And having the right presence and fighting for yourself can do. So hopefully we can open some more doors for not just myself, because I have the same goals kind of with track and field that I do with dealing with vasculitis patients and everything. It's like I want to give people these certain set of tools. So and I want the world that people are entering into. So it's like whether it's a newly diagnosed vasculitis patient or a new kid out of college, like I don't want these things to be so tough on people. And that's what I'm really working towards, is making it better for the next generation. And it's really my true passion. And that's what I'm working for. And Mr. Bean, you are right. That is directly my cause. I guess if I had to have a mission statement, that's probably what it would be, is just trying to use these skills to make people's lives when they enter these worlds a lot better. And so it's starting to have the right conversations and passing on these advice. And it's, the internet's an amazing thing. And it's brought about a lot of change in our ability to get that information out there. And, 5 or 6 years ago, like I couldn't have done this, like not with the lack of experience, the lack of knowledge, the lack of platforms. Like I could have even had a weekly podcast. It would have been way harder. So, it's exciting, to live in this age where information is just everywhere. It can also be dangerous, but for the most part, it's exciting. And, I'm truly grateful for everybody that has gotten involved in my cause, or causes really at this point in time. And, for everybody in the future that will be a part of it, because there's some great conversations that can be had, and they're not always had appropriately on social media platforms, but I think we can move towards doing the right thing. But anyways, one of the other things I've been working on the last couple of weeks, and trying to get going, as some of you might have been aware, I sold some Mountain Minded t-shirts a year ago. I've been working on getting more of those, with getting the design done right and everything. It has not completely worked out, but in the process, I have actually designed some other t-shirts, because I have all these crazy ideas, and I'm a terrible artist. So I can't draw stick figures. So whenever I design stuff, I either have to fork over the money to find somebody to do it, or con my younger brother into doing it, who's an amazing artist and musician. But I finally found in fact, my brother, hopefully none of my teachers are listening, but if I ever turned in a project in elementary, middle, or high school that was any sort of art or poster or anything needed to be drawn, my brother did it. Sorry, I guess I probably cheated. But that's okay. I think, I don't know if statute of limitations is probably up on that now. So we're good. I guess that'll have to be in the next book. Love you, Tyler. That's what you get for not listening. Anyways, so I've designed a couple more shirts. I will go ahead and put a parental discretion is advised for one of the shirts. I just feel like vasculitis, there's all these funny, cool cancer shirts out there and stuff, and people I've gotten really creative with them and stuff over the years, and I'm like, why not us? Like, this is BS. And so I've been toying around with trying to get some shirts for the vasculitis community that are kind of along the same vein. Like I said, parental discretion is advised. One of these is fairly inappropriate. The other one is mildly inappropriate, but is appropriate enough for anybody to pretty much wear. I'm going to throw the links up for the shirts, and they'll be going up on the link for them will be up on my website, and it'll stay up on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. But what they are is I found a really cool platform, and what they do is they allow you to design it, and they have a bunch of like art and stuff that you can that are pre-uploaded, and you can add text and word art and all this fun stuff, and you can kind of get creative and crazy with it, which is not really the idea behind this shirt, but probably some maybe in the future. But it's no upfront cost to you, and it's kind of actually run like a fundraiser. So like nobody loses any money in the process. So what happens is I'll throw the links up for these shirts. It's run like a fundraiser. The shirts will be available for the next 15 days. So the campaign will actually expire on Valentine's Day. So I kind of did this with the idea of maybe since I didn't get this done before Christmas or anything like that around another holiday, people do buy stuff around the holiday for their loved ones for Valentine's Day. I think I just said Thanksgiving, didn't I? I'm stupid. So anyways, there'll be the campaign will be run for the next 15 days. Shirts will be able to be purchased. There is a minimum that has to be purchased for them to go to print. That is, I believe, 6 or 7 of each shirt. So if you buy one and people don't reach the minimum, you get your money back. So it's not like you have to buy it and then wait. But if enough people buy them, obviously they'll go ahead and print, and then at the end of they will print at the end of the fundraiser. So if you buy one now, or soon, when the fundraiser is over on January or February 14th, on Valentine's Day, after that day, after the campaign ends, those shirts will then go to print and then be shipped directly to you. So that's really cool because for somebody like me that has all these ideas that wants to get these shirts out there to people, but I don't know how to screen print. I don't have a screen printing company around here. It allows you to get crazy with stuff like that, and if people like them, then people can buy them. But if not enough people like them, nobody loses money, which is fantastic. So it doesn't hurt anybody. It's not a commitment from anybody on either side. So, but this is just like I have all these crazy art ideas and stuff in my head, but because I'm so terrible at art, so terrible at drawing, or graphic design or anything, this platform is really cool because it kind of has preloaded stuff that I can play around with, and it's amazing. And I've already kind of got a couple others lined up. I'm trying to do one for the podcast too, to kind of support the podcast and promote the podcast. But at the end of the day, this is what I'm doing to support my dream. These shirts are just a part of that process. They're what allow me to do what I do. So in a sense, yes, I want to spread these tools and make track and field a better place, make the vasculitis community stronger. These shirts are a way to support that dream. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw up, and y'all can let me know what you think about the shirts and stuff. But here's the first one, which is fairly appropriate. The other one is obviously my favorite. If anybody knows anything about me at all, these shirts they'll be up for the next 15 days. So the campaign, like I said, will end on Valentine's Day on February 14th. If you like them, please share it. Buy one, buy 12, buy one for the vasculitis patient in your family, buy one for your whole family if you're vasculitis patients, because or a vasculitis family, because you understand, the vasculitis does suck, and sometimes we just want to say F vasculitis. So I ran some of these ideas by several of the other young adult vasculitis patients. We're a pretty hip group of kids that like to think that we know what the kids like. But the links are available if you like them. Feel free to share them. Buy one. Like I said, if you purchase it and not enough people buy it for it to go to print, then you can you don't lose your money. So, but I think the minimum for each shirt, I believe, is 6. So if we sell 6 of each, people will get their shirts, which is fantastic because, like I said, I've seen all these other like cancer shirts and stuff, and anybody that's a vasculitis patient, kind of, and this isn't a knock on cancer because cancer is really nasty, but vasculitis patients kind of often get confused with cancer when you're trying to explain people to what they have, and people not really understanding. And it's easy when you have cancer. No, I don't say easy. It's easy explaining people when you have cancer, like what that means. And so when you have vasculitis, it's a lot more difficult because it's not as clear cut, and a lot of times we get kind of frustrated with that. And with all the research money too that goes more towards cancer and a lot of those other things, because they are really really big diseases that affect millions more than vasculitis does. So it's not cancer's fault, and anybody that has cancer, it's not like I'm mad at cancer patients. It's just you're mad at the situation. And you see all these things and all these ribbons and all this stuff, and quite frankly, I think we should be able to join their party, and that's what we're doing. And that's why I've had these 2 sets of shirts designed by yours truly here. So if you like them, please share them, and hopefully we can get enough for everybody to get theirs. And there will be more of these. I'm going to do one for the podcast. I'm toying around with a few ideas. And maybe I'll toss some of them up, and maybe I'll do that. That's what we'll do for next week. I'll design a few, and we'll pick the best design and go with that, maybe. Or maybe actually no, we'll wait till this one's over. So the podcast after February 14th, we'll pick some shirts for the Going the Distance podcast and run those at a later date. And then hopefully at some point in time, obviously we can get these put up in a permanent place. But because the designs are mine now, and that's super exciting. So, if you like them, please do share them, because that's, these type things are how I support the dream, and it'll allow me to continue to keep talking to you guys every week. It'll allow me to keep selling books and making those sort of things a priority in life. And it's been super exciting and super amazing to be able to do what I love over the last few years. And we're all trying to just, find niches in this ever changing climate of jobs. And one of the things I spent a lot of time talking with several other young vasculitis patients this summer, as well as since then, is trying to find a job too that, if your health goes south, you can still support yourself. And that's what I was doing last year. My health was not great, obviously, and there were several times that were really, really touch and go. But I found a way to work and, get some of the bills paid without it completely. Well, it broke me, but I didn't end up in the red, and I didn't end up in the negative. And that's what's important as a vasculitis patient. I think as a human, if you can do things you love and are really invested in, your passion comes across. And I wrote a blog for Cocoa Elite, the recovery drink that is part of Team Brandon that sponsors me, a few weeks ago, and it'll be coming out at the end of the week. And that's what it's about is how your passions can, once, if you're really super passionate about something, it can create some special moments. And that's what, I try to get everybody to do, try to find something that they're super passionate about and they can make other people care. Because I realize, and it's one of the pitfalls, to kind of bring this back around and hopefully wrap it up here in a few minutes, is one of the pitfalls of our sport. Our sport has done a terrible job of marketing itself. And I take, as an athlete, part of that blame. And it's, it doesn't have the media markets that, baseball, basketball, football, et cetera, has. But if you look at some other, and it probably won't unless football ends up dying because of everybody bashing their brains out. If you look at other sports, whether it be MLS or golf or some of these other sports that aren't quite as mainstream, they still have huge followings, and people in their sport have done the right job and figured out the right way to market it to people. And I think if people can sit down on a Sunday afternoon and watch a golf tournament and watch people whack a little tiny white ball around, which I love the sport of golf, but unless Tiger Woods is playing, it's pretty much boring. And I'm just saying that, you know, there's other great golf. Roy McIlroy is great to watch. Phil Mickelson can be, you know, when it's a tight match, it can be exciting to watch. But Tiger obviously brings an element of excitement because of how great he can be, and then of course, obviously the scandals and everything that have happened since then. Since he won all the gazillion 15 majors or 14 majors or whatever it was, and they thought he was going to catch Jack. Because and that's the thing is there's still the possibility that he can catch Jack, and that's what everybody wants to see. So, you know, golf and a lot of other sports that, you know, heck, I think baseball is way more boring than track and field. So we're doing a terrible job as a sport of marketing it and packaging it correctly. I think a lot of the announcers and stuff too do a terrible job of explaining the sport when it's on TV. Like the meet this Saturday will be on TV from 4 to 6 on NBC. But I'm racing before that window, so I'll be up on live. I'll be up online, but it's a paid subscription thing, so I wouldn't suggest wasting your money on it. Because you can't just pay a one-time fee to watch one race. You know, it's the sport does such a terrible job of marketing itself, and we've got to figure out better ways to reach people. And I'm trying to do that with my passion and my story. Obviously I have a unique story, and not everybody's going to have a story of overcoming something like vasculitis or cancer like Lance Armstrong did, or anything like, you know, everybody has some adversities and stuff in their life, but even when they don't, and you've got a superstar athlete, say even like Usain Bolt or something, like the general media does, I think, even a terrible job of portraying what he is like as an athlete, what track and field is like as a sport, and packaging it the right way for people to understand it, for people to see it. And we need to change that. And maybe I need to be a commentator. I don't know. Maybe somebody will give me that. Well, I have done that one other time. Maybe somebody will give me the opportunity to do that at some point in time, but we've got to start having these, like I said earlier, the right conversations about our sport, and packaging it, because we can't expect people in its current format to come watch it. Like, to give you an example, like the Olympic trials was a phenomenal experience, but it was a 10-day meet spread out over 2 weeks, over 14 days with like a break in the middle, basically, or 12 days with a break in the middle. It was a 10-day meet with a day break in the middle, and the meet was literally 5 or 6 hours every day. And like, unless you're an absolute track nut, nobody's going to go watch that. And I understand the Olympic trials are a unique situation because we've got to pick the right athletes to go to the team. But even then, like a lot of these other meets that I go to, like the Millrose games, for example, they do a fantastic job of packaging the professional races in a very short window, in a 2-hour window that people can digest. Now, that's phenomenal. But even then, there's so much stuff going on. They're not doing things correctly, and they're not marketing it correctly, and it pisses me off. And I'm going to continue to talk about it and fight for change until I feel like we have our share of the market that it deserves, because I don't want people to tell me that track and field's boring and not fun to watch when people will literally sit and watch people play golf. So until we have our fair share of the market, I once had a conversation with actually a vasculitis patient who happens to be a major agent, sports agent, who lives I guess he spends his time in Monaco, which is not a cheap place to be. But I had a conversation with him about trying to market myself better as a track and field athlete. And he's like, y'all are only never going to get, I basically got the response of, you're never going to get more than 1% of the market. And I'm not settling for that. So I'm going to prove him wrong. So that's my goal. And that's where we're going with this. If like I said, if something like golf, or if it's something like NASCAR, track and field is just NASCAR with human bodies. it's really tactical. There's a lot more that goes into it, and explaining the intricacies of it than are currently portrayed. And so that's one of the things too. I think Familetti and Nick Simmons and I will be able to talk about next week, and we will bring that to you. So till then, I have got a trip to pack for New York City. If people are a member of Runner Space, which is the streaming service that will be streaming the meet, if you do have a Runner Space account, you can watch my race. It will be live on Runner Space at 2:47 p.m. on Saturday. And that race will stay, unfortunately, behind a paywall, just like my last one was. Hopefully some of these other meets will be streamed and either be free or they'll be on TV, and you guys can consume them. If you're in the area, if you're in New York City and want to meet up, let me know. Shoot me, slide into the DM or message or whatever, and hopefully we can either meet up afterwards or whatever. So anyways, you guys have been great as always. The podcast will be back for episode number 14 in actually on February. No, it'll be 2 weeks. It'll be February 14th. Anyways, dang it. My brain's shutting down on me. So we're going to go ahead and log this one off for the night. I thank you guys as always. The podcast is sponsored by Going the Distance, my book, available on Amazon.com in Kindle and paperback. Get your copy today. Like I said, and I threw up a link earlier, if you're just arriving, there is one copy of the one signed copy still available, and it can be personalized. In fact, it's actually this copy right here. If somebody's interested in that, it's the same price as it is on Amazon, and I will personalize it to Gumby if you want me to, or to you, or to somebody you love as possibly a gift for Valentine's Day. So anyways, we'll be back next week. I'll recap my race in New York, and we'll be looking forward to going to Montreal, Canada. And you guys have been awesome. If you like the shirts, go buy one and share it with your friends. Share it with a vasculitis patient in your family. Till next time, guys, love you.